Beyond the northern mountains stood a fortress that no one had visited for hundreds of years. It was surrounded by high cliffs and endless snow. People in the nearby villages called it the Silent Fortress. One winter morning, a young explorer named Daniel decided to find it. After 2 days of climbing, he finally saw the enormous stone walls in the distance. The fortress looked untouched. Its towers were still standing. Its iron gates were closed. Daniel walked toward the entrance. Above the gate was an old symbol carved into the stone. He had seen the same symbol in an ancient book. It represented a kingdom that had disappeared without a trace. Daniel pushed the gate. It opened easily. Inside, the courtyard was covered with snow. There were no footprints, no birds, no signs that anyone had been there for centuries. Then Daniel noticed something strange. A fire was burning inside a stone fireplace. Someone had been there recently. He entered the main hall. On the walls hung hundreds of old paintings. Every painting showed the same king. Daniel stopped in front of the final portrait. The king was standing beside a large wooden door. Under the painting was a short inscription. When the door opens, the kingdom returns. Suddenly, Daniel heard a loud sound behind him. The fortress gates had closed. He turned around. At the end of the hall, the wooden door from the painting was standing there. It had never been there before. And slowly, the door began to open. Daniel stepped closer to the mysterious door. Behind it was a long stone staircase leading underground. He turned on his flashlight and began walking down. The deeper he went, the warmer the air became. At the bottom, he discovered a massive underground chamber. In the center stood a stone table. On it was an old metal crown. Beside the crown was a map. Daniel unfolded it. The map showed the fortress, but underneath it was an enormous city. The city was marked as the Lost Kingdom. Daniel looked around. The chamber walls were covered with drawings of the same city. Then he noticed something unusual. Every drawing showed the city full of people. But in the final drawing, everyone was gone. Only the fortress remained. Underneath it were 4 words. They are still waiting. Suddenly, footsteps echoed through the chamber. Daniel raised his flashlight. A figure appeared at the top of the stairs. It was an old man wearing a long, dark coat. He slowly walked toward Daniel. "You found the fortress," the man said. Daniel asked who he was. The old man pointed toward the crown. "I am the last guardian." Daniel looked at the crown. What happened to the kingdom? The old man remained silent for a moment. He opened the wrong door. A deep rumble shook the chamber. The old man looked frightened. "We have very little time." Daniel asked what was happening. The old man pointed toward the ceiling. Far above them, the fortress began to shake. Dust fell from the walls. Then came a distant sound, hundreds of bells ringing at once. The old man whispered, "The kingdom is waking up." Daniel followed the old guardian back upstairs. The fortress was no longer silent. Lights were appearing in the windows. One by one, the courtyard was beginning to change. Snow disappeared from the ground. Old banners appeared on the walls. The abandoned fortress suddenly looked alive. Daniel walked toward the main gate. Beyond the walls, something incredible was happening. An enormous city was slowly appearing across the valley. Buildings rose from the ground. Roads appeared beneath the snow. Thousands of lights filled the streets. The lost kingdom had returned. Daniel looked at the guardian. "How is this possible?" The old man smiled. "The fortress was never abandoned. It was waiting." Daniel looked toward the city. People were beginning to appear in the streets. They looked confused, as if they had just woken from a very long sleep. Then a young woman approached the fortress. She looked directly at Daniel. In her hands was an old book. She opened it and showed him a drawing. It was a picture of the same fortress. But there was one important difference. The picture showed Daniel standing at the gate. Daniel stared at it in disbelief. "How could this book know I would come here?" The woman smiled. "Because the story was written before you were born." Suddenly, the fortress bell rang. The old guardian looked toward the mountains. A massive shadow appeared beyond the city. Daniel watched as the shadow slowly moved closer. The guardian handed him the ancient crown. "The kingdom has returned," he said. "But now it needs a new king." Daniel looked at the crown. Then he looked toward the distant city. He finally understood why he had been able to find the fortress. It had not been waiting for someone to discover it. It had been waiting for him.